So in this position, generally, what we do with the king is we try to get in front, we try to restrict the pawn, restrict the king, and also try to get our king more active in the end game. And as we know, uh, when it's just a rook versus a king, for example, we just forget this pawn. So yeah, so in general, in this situation, we try to get a king in front and then we check, and the king has to go one rank back. So that's how you can see this situation also. We're trying to give a check, so he goes, even if he comes forward, we can get our king closer, so that he won't just keep, if we go here, he goes here. So if the rook is here, he goes here. He tries to not let our king come any further, and so that's why we get our king here. And now let's say his king goes here, we follow him, and now he pushes, and now we can give a check. His king goes here. So this was the way to make the king not stay in opposite our king. So after we give a check, he goes here, then we protect our rook, and now the king is very close to the promotion square, and now he has to move somewhere. Let's say he goes here, then we come here, and this position is winning. For example, if he goes here, now you don't move the rook, you move the rook, but you go up, you pin the pawn. And for example, if the king goes here, then we can just do this, and the pawn is lost. So this particular pawn push is very tricky, because you might just go here, and then it will be a draw because he promotes to a queen or something like that. So pinning the pawn is very important in this situation, and then we win the pawn. Yeah. Now in this position, we will see why a rook is when a rook is important. Like usually it is important for a lot of things, but in this position we are looking at how it's important to give a check and also win time for the king to get closer. So in this case, this move wouldn't be great, because this just draws the game. After you play g3 and rook gives a check, now you play this move, and this is the drawing move, because if you play here, you just push, and yeah, so if you go here, you can go back, and gives a check, you can go back, and this is the draw. Basically, if you get your king closer, you can just push, and yeah, that's the draw. And so that's why you need to first give a check, which kind of forces him to go here, because you don't want to block your own pawn. You can also go here if you want, but it works for the same. So in this situation, after the check, we threaten to take the pawn, then then the black king protects it, and now the king joins, like gets closer to the action, and now he plays this, and now we give a check. So when the king came here, he also is shouldering the opponent's king, like in the previous position. So the king has to like give away a square for the white king to come closer to the action and the pawn, basically. So let's say he goes here, because he can't go here now because the king is controlling it, and then white king comes closer, and this is a win for white. because the white king is very close and can easily win the pawn. So let's see how he wins it. So now we try to promote it, and then we bring our rook here. Now if he pushes, we can just get a king closer, and then pawn is lost. And so this is how the rook is used for winning time and getting a king closer to the pawn. This is another position for understanding shouldering and uh, time gaining checks. So in this position, we give a check first. He goes here, and now since we are in like kings are facing each other, we can get a rook here, because we can't give a check from this side because the space is too less and the king just attacks the rook. So we go here, and then he plays e3, and then we give a check, and this forces the king to go forward, because if he goes back, then we anyways bring our king closer, so he goes back ahead of in front of the pawn, and then we get a king closer. And now we play this attack, putting pressure on the pawn. So this is again kind of shouldering. The king is shouldering, so he has to move the king, and so he goes back. Let's say here we go king f3, and now the pawn is lost. Yeah, even if he pushes, the pawn is lost. So this is another example of the shouldering and uh, checking the opponent king whenever the kings are facing each other. Now when the rook is in front of the pawn, for example, this won't really be a position because the king takes. So this was probably the position, and then black plays here, and now it's white to move. So what we do first is we play rook e2 first, and we don't really directly play this because we want to play that in next move. Now let's see if we play this. Now what happens? He plays king e2, e4, and then he goes here. We go here. He goes here. We go here, and now we don't have a move. We can't play rook e2, right? And that's why. So and next move, he just threatens the rook, and we don't have enough time here, and so that's why we first play rook e2, so that there is enough space between the king and the rook, enough space to then in the next move we can play this as a waiting move. So here he goes e4, and now we play, no wait, it was here, so we play rook e2 first. He goes e4, and now we play rook e1. Now if he goes up, we can go here. He goes up, we go here, and if he can't do that because the pawn is hanging. So let's say he plays this first, then we are attacking the pawn. He goes here, we are already attacking the pawn, and so that's why it's like, yeah, it's very subtle, but that's what we have to do. When like we can play first e2 and then e1, and this is when the rook is directly in front of the pawn. And let's play it out again. So he goes e4, and now we play rook e1. So he goes here, we go here, Now he comes up, we go here, he plays this move, we go here, he goes here. Now we are attacking the pawn. He pushes, then we are again attacking the pawn. So this is how we win. No matter, like, just this waiting move makes the difference between winning and drawing the game. And yeah, that's all for this one. So there are some interesting there's an interesting theme here with the knight pawn, and let's see what it is. So first we give a check with the rook, and the king goes king b3. Then we bring our king closer, and here we push the pawn, and he brings the king closer. Now we go here, king c5, we push king b4, and we push again. Now the rook gives a check, king b1, king b3, and in this situation king goes to c1, and here rook gives a check, king goes to b1, and now we play rook here. Now this is again a waiting move kind of situation, and anywhere the king goes, it's a lost position. For example, let's say king a1, rook gives a check, king goes to b1. Now rook attacks the pawn. So earlier we couldn't do that in this position because king just goes to c1, and then if rook attacks the pawn, we just give a check and promote to a queen. So in this situation, after we play king a1, rook gives a check, and this is gives white an extra move to play rook a2, and this one is lost. And after king c1, we play king a2, and the promotion square is covered by the king and the rook, and so this position is also lost. So this is the special kind of theme with the knight pawn, where we kind of make a waiting move with the rook on b1, wherever the king moves, it's win for white. Yeah, and this also works when it's a rook pawn. So in this situation, what we would do is obviously get our king as close as possible, and if this is the situation, we play this move, trying to force the king out of the outside, like get him. If the king was in front of the pawn, we can do this. Go again. Then we can play this with the rook, and he can't do anything about this because this will just lose the pawn. Yeah, so with the rook pawn and the knight pawn, in these two files and in these two files, we can do this when the weaker king is in front of the promoting pawn. So like this, in even here we can do this. For example, rook just gave a check, and king goes here. Then we can play this. And same situation, if the king goes here again, then we go here, this move, this, or if the king goes on h1, same situation. No, not less. King here, a rook here, and so yeah, that's what was the special kind of theme with the rook and the knight pawn. So this is the position that this is kind of like the earlier position, like some time ago I had shown that the king, when it's in front of the pawn, and then you can promote to a knight and then it's a check and it's a draw, but it doesn't work with the rook pawn. Now let's see how. So rook gives a check, king goes b3, king b5, then push, check again, king b2, king b4, a2, and check again, b1, king b3, and now promotes to a knight. Where is the knight? Wait a minute. Yeah. Promotes to a knight, and now we play this move, king c3. Now king e3 wouldn't work because we just give a check, and the knight just keeps checking, and eventually the king will have to go to c3 anyways to win the game. So here the knight has no move, because if he goes here, we just take it. He goes here, now rook is taking it, and king has no move because if this entire rank is covered by the rook, and if the king moves, this is checkmate. And so knight at the corner does not draw the game, but anywhere other than the rook pawn, the knight draws. So the rook pawn isn't always bad, because it has a lot of stalemate chances, and in this situation, if we give a check with our rook, then the king goes back, and there is no time for like going back here, because the king goes up again, and if we try to attack, it will just promotes. And so that's why this is kind of like a draw. This is a draw, but this doesn't work when we are one rank up with the rook pawn. This stalemate trick doesn't work, but it's still a draw, just in another way. So first let's see, black plays this, then we give a check, and now black plays here, and we play this, and we push the pawn, and in this position we play this, attack the pawn, and now we have this move, and if he gives a check, it goes here, right? And this doesn't work now, because we can play this move, and by the time he goes back, this is checkmate. And so that's why he has to play king c1. In this situation, this king a1 doesn't work. And yeah, that's one way of, you can say, if one of the players doesn't know, he can win the game, or draw a winning game. So yeah, that's all. This position is actually a win, and it's very kind of funny how white wins this position. So rook gives a check, king goes here. Now you can't play any other move like bringing the king closer, because you just promote to a queen and then you win the game. So rook follows the king, kind of, and here the king does this move. You still can't kind of go grab the pawn in any way, because you just promote the next move. And rook gives a check again, king b3, check, goes here, check, goes here, check, and b7, and there is no way for the rook to even take the pawn. So this is a win for white, because you just promote in the next move no matter what. Who promotes, right? So yeah, so this was the end of the Rook versus Pawn, and the next 10 games would be Rook versus 2 pawns, and so I'll be doing those tomorrow, starting from tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for watching. There is also more position, two more like known positions like the Philidor and the Lucina, but I'll talk about them later. I'll make a separate video about them. So yeah, thanks for watching.